Walmart employees. What's the worst thing you have seen inside your store? Story 1. I had a guy order 2-inch thick slices of Swiss cheese and an inch thick slice of ham. When I asked him what he was making, he said, "A sandwich. I'm on the keto diet." Buddy, that is not how this works. I understand keto means you can eat meat and cheese, but it does not mean replace bread with cheese. Story 2. I worked in the garden center at a Walmart in a semi-rural area. Had a woman come in asking to buy all of our unalive plants for a quarter because she could bring them back to life. I called the manager because I didn't know if we could do that. While we were waiting, she proceeded to tell me that she had been struck by lightning, letting her see God, which is where she learned how to bring things back to life. Story 3. I worked at a Walmart for a year back in 2011. While the sales floor itself was clean and organized for the most part, the back room looked like a hoarder's paradise. It was about the size of a small gymnasium and had boxes of products going all the way back to the 90s. Story 4. Standard, not Walmart, but when I worked overnights at Kroger, about a week before Christmas, I was stocking the Mexican section. I was in my zone and really not paying attention. Suddenly, I hear a meek voice saying, "Excuse me, but do you have a phone?" I looked up to see a rail-thin woman in a yellow dress that looked like it was basically falling off. Her black hair was a mess, and she only had one sock. Makeup was streaming down her face where she had been crying. My heart was racing, just because I wasn't really expecting this. People rarely speak to you overnight, to begin with, and immediately upon seeing her, I assumed the worst had happened. Anyway, I told her that the phone was front, and the self-checkout lady would gladly let her use it. Now, I never found out for sure, but she told our self-checkout lady that she had been at a party, got in a fight with her boyfriend, and gotten kicked out or left. I can't remember. She then proceeded to walk around 4 miles from the next county over to our store since it was the only place open this late. It was also in the 30s and drizzling. If you want really great stories, work overnights at a grocery store. Story 5. A customer in a power scooter, his own, not from the store, was at the fabrics counter asking me what would be a good fabric that could be waterproof. He only needed a 2x2 foot piece, and I was explaining to him how I had to cut by the yard, not by what size he asked. He did not understand me completely, and, in a moment of old man anger, he lifted up his shirt, pulled his pants down, and screamed, "I just want to keep my colostomy bag from freezing in the winter." I saw it all, cut him a 1-yard piece of fabric and sent him on his way. I bleach much needed. Story 6. Not a Walmart employee. I just want to say thank you to all the retail workers out there for putting up with the things you put up with and not ending everyone you know. Seriously, you are doing God's work and you get nowhere near enough love for it. Story 7. Was working part-time at Walmart and was having a smoke break. There was a guy sitting on the bench with a paper sack. I thought, oh, he's got a beer in there, or something to that nature. Nope. While several of us employees were sitting there, he pulled out a white paint can, blasted it into the paper sack, and started huffing it till his eyes rolled back and he slumped out. Everyone was kind of in shock, but then a few seconds later he popped up, grabbed his stuff and went on his merry way. Story 8. The worst thing a Walmart employee may ever see is obviously his or her paycheck. F Walmart and the Walton crime family. Story 9. Didn't work at Walmart, but once I saw an entire family, man, woman, and son, there who all had mullets. I thought that was pretty special. Story 10. The bathrooms, especially the ladies, they just don't care about keeping it clean or hygienic. Disgusting is all I have to say. Story 11. My best friend and roommate worked at Walmart, and technically didn't survive there after having an aneurysm. The worst story was about the Hamburglar, a person or persons who would put a packaging of raw hamburger in their cart and then change their mind and leave the hamburger in some random spot. Sometimes it would be a couple of days before the Hamburglar's deed was uncovered. It was so bad that almost every employee started inspecting their area of responsibility, and pretty soon the Hamburglar's foul deed were being discovered very quickly, because no one wanted to deal with a leaky maggot mess. Then the assistant manager got caught leaving a package of hamburgers in the shoe department. Story 12. It's been years now since I worked there, but this is something I will never forget. I worked in the photo lab, which was right next door to electronics. There was a man and a child. The child maybe being 8, looking at video games. I kept hearing the child say he had to go to the bathroom, but his father wouldn't take him or let him go alone. Long story short, the boy obviously couldn't hold it any longer and soiled his pants. The father then told the son to shake it out. The kid did just that, and tons of you-know-what fell out of his shorts onto the floor. The smell was atrocious, and I honestly could not believe what I was witnessing. The father then walked over to my co-worker and said, "Yeah, you better clean this up," and promptly left. I was stunned. Story 13. Not an employee but an off-duty police officer. 2 homeless people dug out a hole in the paper towel section and were living in it. They finally found them when someone complained about 2 people doing inappropriate things in the toilet paper aisle. Also had a homeless person relieve themselves in the bike aisle. Those employees do not get paid enough. Story 14. Someone throwing their used children's diapers on top of the freshly baked cookies I just put out. Had to throw out 700 cookies. Story 15. Mine actually happened yesterday. I was walking back to my area and saw one of my coworkers in front of a puddle. She said, "Walk around." I responded, "I don't want to know." Her immediate response was, "It is urine." I lowered and shook my head and walked by. Story 16. I've only been working at Walmart for 2 weeks. I've had 3 people lose their temper on me. One woman slammed her cart into someone else's cart because she couldn't buy alcohol with an expired ID. And one guy tried to walk away with a whole cart of groceries, in which a different customer walked after him and literally dragged him back inside. Again, 2 weeks. Edit. I'm getting asked this a lot, so I'll explain. Stores can't accept expired IDs because they are considered invalid. If invalid IDs were accepted, then it would create an aftermarket for those IDs, which would then make it easier for people under 21 to get a hold of something they could potentially use to illegally purchase alcohol. Story 17. It's kinda bad to bring up because it's sad and I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. But it's like 4 a.m. and this man dressed in a suit and fedora comes in. No face. I concluded some kind of terrible disease had eaten away his face. All he had left was eyes and a massive hole. He just gurgled. We had to have him write down what he needed. It was sad, but wow, it scared me to no end. And I never really forgot. Story 18. When I worked at Walmart, a week wouldn't go by without someone relieving themselves on the ground somewhere in the store, usually in the clothes section. Story 19. I worked at Walmart for all of my teenage years, and there was so much number 2 where it shouldn't be. That's the most disgusting. The worst would have been when some thieves attempted to run out the door, followed closely by loss prevention, turned around and sprayed them with mace, which then wafted into the store. A few seniors had to be taken to the hospital for respiratory issues. Everyone working in the store spent all day coughing as the mace lingered in the air because, heaven forbid, they shut the store down and think of anyone else's health. Story 20. So I used to stock the craft section on overnights. I'm kinda an awkward person, so no human contact was great for me. This old guy on a scooter insisted upon sitting in my aisle for like hours, just staring at the needles. Okay, whatever. I stocked everything I could, but finally I needed him to move. And honestly, I was a little creeped out at this point. I mentioned it to my manager on the way to lunch. After lunch, he was gone. Turns out he had passed away there like 5 hours ago. Story 21. Had a customer in a motorized scooter, his personal one, not store provided, came up to me at the sporting goods desk and he asked me where the cans of compressed air were. I walked him over to some and he thanks me, grabs a can off the shelf, and proceeds to start huffing it right in front of me. Story 22. Somebody put bleach, ammonia, and Drano in the fish tanks. Another time somebody sprayed deer pee all over the toy section. I am really glad I don't work there anymore. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the bell button to receive notifications to my latest videos.